Thanks to Lucius, bats can be led right to the laughing. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, The Dark Knight Trilogy, Joker's Sonar Vision. No Name strikes terror into the hearts of Gotham City's citizens quite like the Joker. In a city overrun by larger-than-life criminals, the always-laughing villain stands alone. A complete psychopath with no moral compass whatsoever, the Joker, whose real name and identity remain completely unknown, is characterized by his chalk-white skin, green hair, and permanent rictus grin stretched across his face. But there isn't a single thing funny about this particular clown, who only finds humor in the suffering of others. I think I better get this review underway before someone starts typing their name. Before we get a closer look, though, at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, The Dark Knight Trilogy, Joker, Sonar Vision, oh, that's going to be a lot to put in a title. I'd like to first thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide the sample we could have a look at. I'm going to bring in the other Jokers that we've already had a look at in a moment. First, though, the height for this clown, Prince of Crime. You look at the Joker standing about, I would say, 6 3/4 of an inch in height. That works out to be a figure that's 16.5 centimeters tall. Making, of course, the most out of the mold, here's what the original Joker looked like. Essentially, it is the exact same figure. All they've done differently is cast it in all a translucent blue plastic. Another Joker we've already had a look at, a gold label edition version of the Joker. Here's what he looks like with the bank robber version. Now, in this case, if I can actually get his feet to be completely flat and straight. There we go. The Joker also, in this case, was using the same lower legs and feet. So that, of course, is one thing that's also been used again for the mold. And again, another comparison we can also bring in, of course, Christian Bale's Batman. You wanted me. Here I am. You can see in this case, yes, the Joker is going to be just a tad bit taller than Christian Bale's Batman. Well, at least the Bat Sonar was able to pick up on Joker's body, but it wasn't able to pick up on any accessory outlines because the figure doesn't come included with any. It does, however, though, come included with a trading card and display stand. We'll look at the trading card first. This category I would fall this into is probably source material, as it looks to be more still from the movie. A lot of publicity shots also use this image of Heath Ledger. Not necessarily the color scheme that we get right now. This is kind of making it look like it looks more like it actually was in the movie. And I don't think this is an actual image used from the movie. I think it was probably likely digitally altered. It does, though, draw one more thing attention-wise to the card that we'll probably bring back in a moment when, of course, we look at the figure itself. But I will say, though, I like the look of the card. Flip around, though, to the back. The real name is listed as unknown. And a fairly long paragraph read you can pause and read for yourself. The figure also comes included with a display stand. I think this would also have been a fun time that they could have included a display stand that was translucent plastic, clear plastic. I'm sure they probably could have used it again. This does still have the DC logo printed down below, one neighboring peg that can plug into either one of Joker's feet, but you have to choose one. We'll move that also to the side as well. So the image of this, at least the way the Joker is depicted here, is the Sonar version of him. Basically, in the movie, they use all basically the frequencies of the cell phones to emit a sonar pulse. And through that, Batman's able to then track down, at least Lucius Fox is able to track down. One last time, I'll do this for Mr. Wayne before consider this my resignation. But then he's able to find at least the Joker. And this is sort of what the Joker would look like with the Sonar vision. What it essentially is, though, is it's translucent blue plastic. So all the things that we got before with Joker is basically it all been stripped away on the color, and it's been molded rather instead in a translucent blue plastic. It also kind of gives you a chance as well to show you how the figure's been built and been put together. Some of the things like, for example, the joints are things that are a little bit more obviously known here because in this case, they're actually using more of an opaque plastic than the translucent plastic. There actually is, to be fair, there is a little bit of translucency to it. We can see that the plastic itself is a little bit more of a denser plastic. Likely obviously they wouldn't have used clear pegs for this because this would all be things that would be breaking if you were to bend and move the figure around, which I'm sure you probably will want to do. It becomes, unfortunately, a little bit more obvious when you look at things like his knees. Because the knees have to use larger joints, you can see like the opaque nature of the plastic stands out just a little bit more. Head sculpt-wise, I think it's good. The thing about it, though, is while looking at this and then looking at the card, I'm going to bring back in the card here for a second. I will say, like, the coloring is quite good, but I would have maybe darkened the colors around his eyes, maybe even darkened the color around his lips. I think the lips are okay, but I feel like the eyes probably could be a little bit darker than what they are. The hair is also something I feel like, again, only to base it from the card alone, I feel like the hair should have almost been all black or an all dark blue, and then they would have only just done little touches of the whiter paint, not had as much white paint as what they did right now. I feel the biggest culprit, though, unfortunately, when you look at the rest of the figure's body, I feel like instead of selecting parts, specific parts, again, I'm just going to bring back in the card so you guys can see, instead of selecting specific parts that would be outlined automatically with the Sonar pulse, instead, rather, it looks like they sort of just added an airbrushing around here. It doesn't seem to have a rhyme or reason as to why it belongs right here, and yet they don't put it anywhere else on the figure's body. So while you may get a little bit of paint afforded to the front of the figure, all the rest of it, unfortunately, is all sort of relegated to just the translucent blue plastic. I will say, like, it's a good looking figure, and the details, one thing by having it in a translucent plastic and only coloring it by only just a couple of shades of the same blue, it does give you at least a chance to kind of see, I feel, a little bit more of the details and the finer features of the face. Again, I do think like maybe too much white was probably afforded maybe to the hair. They probably could have pulled that back just a little bit. Or even maybe whitened the coloring of his face to more of this whiter color and maybe made the hair a little bit more darker blue to resemble the rest of the coloring for the body. The rest of the body construction, of course, is the exact same as the Joker from before, so all the articulation points will all remain the same. And they even also have given him the hands with the gripping, although again, like the figure has no additional accessories whatsoever. For the figure's posability, though, starting first with the head, it rotates, of course, all the way around. You can have the head looking up, looking down, and you can also move it also back and forth as well. Shoulders do rotate all the way around. Now again, like when you're looking at these, I'm just going to bring the arms out so you can kind of see the inner cavity of these. They all seem to be using opaque plastic, less likely to break. That's a good idea. But yeah, the arms do hinge out at comfortably 90 degrees, so there's no problems really there. He does have a swivel at the bicep right there. The figure does also possess a double hinge on the elbow right there. And you can, of course, rotate the hands all the way around. But again, like just to look at the way that they constructed this, it's fun every once in a while to get a translucent or clear plastic figure. So you can kind of see the way that's all been put together. You can see like there's the peg right there that would attach then to the hand, to the rest of the forearm. Upper torso, if I can actually get in there, is on a ball joint, and it moves really quite freely. The little chain that he has actually is attached to the top of his waist. So while moving the waist, or at least the top portion of his body, you're really not going to have any worries of this going to be ripping off the figure's body, unless you're just going to be grabbing it. Don't do that, whatever you do. This also, by using the translucent plastic, is what I seem to think is a lot more softer of a plastic too. When we looked at the original Joker, it had a little bit of soft plastic, obviously around the area of his mid-torso, but it seems with this type of plastic that they've used, the plastic seems even that much more softer. I mean, you can really squeeze it quite a lot. You can also see as well how much of a gap they've left inside, just of course to allow the figure to rotate as much as it does. Legs do split out, once again, using ratcheted joints. You can take the legs and move them, of course, moving forward. You can have them moving back, swivel at the top of the thigh. Figure possesses also as well a double hinge on the knee, and still all the same articulation as the Joker from before. Hinging up and down on the ankles, you can rock the ankles back and forth this way. And the figure also has, even though translucent and plastic, also has toe articulation as well. I don't think it's necessarily a figure that needs to be picked up unless if you're casually collecting, and let's just say you want to get a Joker for your shelf space, I don't know necessarily I would say that this is a Joker that's well worth picking up. I think for the diehard fans, if I can get the Joker to stand here, I think for the diehard fans, you may want to then pick this up so you can have another variation of the Joker, which was good before. I thought that McFarlane did a really good job of the initial Joker, and we are also getting as well the precinct Joker that isn't going to also have the jacket. That's, I think, as far as I know, already been released. So there's going to be a couple of Jokers going around. I think maybe those Jokers for the casual collectors are more likely the ones you're going to be picking up, like this guy here, for example. The bank robber Joker, of course, we can also bring him back in as well. I think that's a good Joker to be picking up. But when it comes to I think at least, the Sonar vision of Joker, I don't think it's necessarily one that you have to necessarily pick up. But I will say, though, once having it on your shelf, it does look interesting. It does certainly look interesting using the translucent blue. Certainly as an only real nitpick about it, just again to compare it with the card that comes included with the figure, I feel like they probably should have been a little bit more selective where the paint should have gone, instead of just sort of just spraying it across the front of the figure's body. That's more haphazard. Didn't really seem to have a real purpose the way that they applied it. Sure, to some casual collectors out there, they would consider this more an unnecessary remold of a figure that was already good in the first place. If you already have that first Joker and you're only casually collecting this line, this may be an instant pass right away. Die-hard fans, I would imagine, would probably still be interested to pick up this Joker, and I will say, to defending the fact that this is simply just a remolding of the one that we already got before, at least to some extent, this is the way that the Clown Prince of Crime looked like actually in the movie. It's debatable, of course, whether the figure really needed to exist in the first place, but I will say it's not just a case that they just repainted it slightly and then just re-released it again. If they released this, say, as a bloody Joker, that was just simply the Joker we got before already, with some blood splattered across his face, that would be a harder sell, I feel. But at least this is the way that Joker looks like for a short period of time, at least in the movie. And I think therefore justifies its existence, why it needed to be released in the first place. Do you guys think, though, it's an unnecessary re-release from the folks over at McFarlane Toys, or do you think it's a pretty cool looking figure? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section of what you think of Sonar Vision Joker. Meantime, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide the sample of the DC Multiverse, the Dark Knight Trilogy, Sonar Vision, the Joker. If you guys enjoyed this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and certainly do want to stick around for more, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and you're as well turning on the bell notification. Of course, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.